Hey, welcome to the Yugioh Rulebook from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card Game Podcast. I'm Matt. Today we're going to be talking about special summoning of all kinds.
Indeed. And I'm Kyle. I'm back here.
Kyle's behind the camera today. So let's get started. We have our array of special summoning monsters here, familiar.
And negating mechanic. The one and only.
So what is special summoning? The rule is you are allowed to normal summon once per turn. Everybody knows that. And then special summoning gets around that rule. So you can do as many special summons as you possibly can per turn.
And during your opponent's turn.
And during your opponent's turn.
Whenever you want, actually.
Mm-hmm.
As many as you want, whenever you want. As long as you meet the conditions of the summon.
Absolutely.
Specified via card text.
And there are two types of special summons. Two classes. They're both still special summons. There's special summoning by an effect and inherent special summoning. So the more confusing of the two is probably inherent special summoning. It seems to confuse everybody because there's this mix-up of, well, if I'm summoning a monster from my hand, for instance, like Cyber Dragon, whose effect is, if your opponent controls a monster, and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. Machine, effect monster, it's in the effect box, it reads like an effect, it is an effect, but it's also giving Cyber Dragon the ability to special summon itself. By having this card in your hand, and you meet this particular condition, you can special summon Cyber Dragon. It's not an effect, it doesn't start a chain, it just goes straight onto the field.
It doesn't activate. It's more like it's a continuous effect. You can think about it more like a continuous effect that you can, once you've achieved this state, continuously it's like waiting for this state to occur. You can summon it.
Mm-hmm. I prefer to think of it like an ability or a trait. Cyber Dragon just has the ability to place itself on the field.
Yes. And it inherently has it in the card.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Then, in contrast, there's special summoning by an effect. So we have Blackwing Zephyros the Elite. So if this card is in your graveyard, you can return one face-up card you control to the hand to special summon this card from the graveyard and take 400 damage. So Yu-Gi-Oh! It now has problem-solving card text. So they clarify if something is an effect with punctuation. And then this is the old Zephyros, so it doesn't have the proper punctuation, so that's terrible. So I'll just switch with Gores because it'll be easier. So Gores is when you take damage from a card effect your opponent controls, you can special summon this card from your hand. Now obviously this is during the damage step, so it's a little more, particular, a little more specific. It might not obviously be an inherent summon, but it does have a colon, and it'll probably be very, very hard for you to see that, but just look up the Gores. It has a colon, which is the two dots, followed by text. Text followed by a colon is a condition. So kind of like Cyber Dragon, it says if your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, that's a condition. And same thing with Gores. When you take battle damage from a card your opponent controls, or just damage actually, then colon. And the effect is you can special summon this card from your hand. Cyber Dragon doesn't have that colon, it doesn't have that pause, it just has, you can special summon this card from your hand.
Yeah.
Alright, and so back to Zephyros. If Zephyros was, if we had the one that was updated with the correct card text, it would be printed similarly to Gores, excuse me. It'd be the cost. If this card is in your it'd be the condition. If this card exists in your graveyard, you can return one face-up card you control to the hand. That would be the cost. And then the effect is special summon this card from the graveyard and take 400 damage. That's the effect, and those both happen at the same time.
Yes, and all of it's separated by colons or semicolons. If an entire sentence to summon a card does not have a colon or a semicolon, then you can assume it is inherent, unless, of course, it's a really old card and it doesn't have updated card text.
Mm-hmm. So moving on to other cards that can be special summoned by effects. Ritual monsters. Super old. Everybody knows how they work. You play a ritual card, you pay its cost, and then the monster is special summoned. This is clearly being special summoned by the effect of Black Illusion Ritual. Activate it. Tribute monsters whose level equal 1 or higher to special summon the monster. And that's by a card effect. Now, once this monster has been properly summoned, as just part of the game mechanic, you can special summon it from your graveyard if it were to get destroyed as many times as you want. Monsters like this, though, have to be properly summoned beforehand. There are some cards that say this monster cannot be normal summoned or set. This monster cannot be special summoned except by fulfilling a certain condition. As long as a monster doesn't say it cannot be special summoned except, you can generally special summon it from the graveyard after it has been summoned properly.
But note on Relinquished, it doesn't say you can't normal summon it, but you can't because it's a ritual monster.
Oh, very true.
That's just the mechanics of the game. You cannot normal summon a ritual monster, even if it says you can. Or it doesn't say you can't, I guess.
It would be redundant if they put that on every ritual monster. That's just how those cards work.
Yeah, that'd be wasted space, especially on that book of a card.
Yeah, it's already huge.
There's a shadow.
So, fusion monsters. Also summoning by effect. You play the card Polymerization, you send the material that is written on the fusion monster card, and then you summon the fusion monster. So, activate Polymerization. If your opponent doesn't prevent Polymerization from resolving in any way, you special summon the monster is on the field. Then we have more summoning by effect. Monster Reborn.
Very similar. You activate it. If it's not responded to, it'll resolve summoning a monster by its effect.
Synchros are the exception to this kind of different colored card rule. They are inherent summons. By sending a tuner and a non-tuner to the graveyard, you immediately place the synchro monster onto the field. You do not have to activate any effects to special summon a synchro monster. Tuners are not effect monsters. That was deliberately done to show that summoning synchro monsters is not an effect. It is an inherent condition of summoning synchro monsters.
Yeah, so... And same with Xyz monsters as well, which we didn't put one there, but it's essentially the same as the synchro, except you just stack the monsters.
Yep.
Instead of send to the graveyard. How does this come into play with the Thunder King?
So I'll read Thunder King's effect so that we have it all on tape. Neither player can add cards from their hand or from their deck to their hand except by drawing them, and you can send this face-up card to the graveyard to negate the special summon of one monster of one of your opponent's monsters and destroy it. So
there's lots of confusion surrounding it because if you have people talk to you about it or you duel them, they'll say, "Oh, you can't negate that with Thunder King. You can negate this," and it's just like, why? It's like, why can't it negate Cyber Dragon, but why can't it negate Gores? It's being special summoned. It says I can negate the special summon of a monster by sending it to the graveyard.
So, for example, we have a Cyber Dragon. We play it on the field. There's literally no other events in the game state to prevent Thunder King from responding directly to Cyber Dragon, right?
Correct.
So then we play Monster Reborn. We activate the effect that will special summon a monster.
Indeed.
Correct? Then Monster Reborn resolves, special summoning the monster. The monster is special summoned, right? We resolve the effect of Monster Reborn. The monster has been special summoned. What's the difference?
What's the difference? The difference is when you attempt to special summon Cyber Dragon, it doesn't get special summoned no matter what. So it attempts to be special summoned, which Thunder King can negate an attempt to special summon.
So like a normal summon monster like Zephyros, you plop it out of your hand, no questions asked.
You attempt to normal summon it.
You attempt to normal summon.
They can play Solemn Judgment or Solemn Warning to prevent that normal summon. Similarly, you can attempt to special summon the Cyber Dragon. When you control no monsters and your opponent does, say Thunder King, you can attempt to special summon Cyber Dragon using its inherent condition. And thus T-King can negate that summon by sending itself to the graveyard.
Absolutely. I like to think of it as cards are in limbo or they're in transit. You can attempt to special summon Cyber Dragon, and that attempt is, I'm going to play Cyber Dragon from my hand. It's in transit to the field. It has not been summoned yet, so it can be negated and prevented from ever hitting the field. That's what Thunder
Yes.
King does. It prevents monsters from appearing onto the field.
But it cannot negate something that has already been summoned. That's where Monster Born and card effects come in. In the game of Yu-Gi-Oh!, as soon as a chain begins to resolve, you can no longer interject cards into that chain, and it will resolve no matter what. So if I activate Monster Born, you have no response. It will resolve its effect no matter what. I mean, unless it cannot meet the condition of its effect.
Yeah, like the monster disappears from either player's graveyard, so it's not there anymore to be special summoned.
But let's just say I activate Monster Born while the opponent has Thunder King Ryo, targeting my Cyber Dragon, of course, in my graveyard. A monster hasn't been special summoned or is not being special summoned at this time, so Thunder King cannot negate it.
Absolutely.
And as the rules of Yu-Gi-Oh! State, as soon as the chain starts resolving, it must resolve all the way before anything can be interjected into the chain. So, you have no response to my Monster Born, and it resolves and it special summons the Cyber Dragon.
Where Thunder King negates the special summon of a monster, so it negates the attempt of a special summon. It does not negate the activation of a card
That will
that
special
effectively special summons a monster permanently. I
So-
think about it in a weird way that everybody else hates, but I like it. Imagine this is another copy of Monster Reborn, and this is the monster I'm bringing back from my graveyard. I activate Monster Reborn. Do you respond? Gores is summoned. Monster Reborn is finished resolving, and then you can't activate Thunder King because Monster Reborn is finished resolving. That's how I look at it. Whereas if you're going to summon Cyber Dragon, you just plop down Cyber Dragon. There's no effect happening.
There's
to
no
place the monster
in-between
on the
thing in there. And at the resolution of Monster Born, of course, it effectively summons the monster. And if it's already been special summoned, you can't negate it because it's already happened. It's almost like it's too late because the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Resolves chains.
Yep.
So if it didn't work that way, T-King could negate it, but it can't because it for lack of a better term, misses its timing.
Yeah.
That's not the effective use of that term.
Yeah.
But it misses its chance to negate it because the time of the special summoning has passed. The special summoning was already a success.
Yep. Absolutely. Was there anything else? That
Any
we-
closing words?
Other monsters that I found out that are inherent special summons, the Tricky and Swap Frog are inherent special
Yes.
summons. There are older versions of those cards, obviously, so
It was vague.
it was vague. The Tricky was basically a monster that discard one card from your hand to special summon this card to the field. That sounds like a cost.
Sounds like an effect. Like
Sounds
you
like an
discard it
effect.
to activate its effect. But we figured out after research that there's pretty much 0 cards that discard to special summon as an effect.
Yeah, there are no monsters that we could find that do that as an effect. They're all inherent.
Yeah, so the Tricky, Swap Frog, other similar friends. I know
Yeah.
there's others, but discard something or discard in some way to special summon. Like Light Pulsar in the graveyard, discard the 2. Special summon is an inherent summon, not an effect. Even Machina Fortress, the one that is
Oh,
ambiguous to many, you discard it and other cards to inherently summon it, not by an effect. People continuously are trying to DD Crow somehow in there, but they cannot.
Can't DD Crow. The summons of these monsters, like, oh, he's attempting to summon Machina Fortress, I'm going to activate my Macrocosmos to prevent him from discarding his monsters into the graveyard so I can kind of screw him over. It doesn't work like that.
See, inherent just happens. So, like you said, it puts them in this like limbo stage where they're like hovering above the board. So it's like discard for Machina Fortress, hovering above the board. Is the summon successful? That's like what you ask first.
Yeah.
So they can only respond with summon negation cards to inherent summons, which is Thunder King, Solemn Warning.
Solemn Judgment.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, really weird cards like the Selection.
Chaos Trap Hole.
Yeah, excuse our Yu-Gi-Oh! Library knowledge.
Oh, yes, of course.
But I believe that's about it.
Yeah, so if you guys have any questions about particular monsters or that are either inherent or special summon as a result of effect, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you hated this video, definitely let us know. So thanks, guys, for watching the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card Game Podcast.
And one bit of news. Here's the pack. Next video, we will bend it.